Here's something that might genuinely stop you for a second. There are couples in this country, real people, bringing home $150,000, $160,000, maybe even pushing $200,000 a year combined, both working full-time, both educated, both doing everything they were told to do, and they are one unexpected expense away from serious financial stress. Not one bad year away. One expense, one transmission, one medical bill, one layoff notice. And if you're sitting there right now thinking that sound familiar, this video is for you, because what's happening to middle-class dual-income households right now is one of the most misunderstood financial stories of our generation. From the outside, it looks like success. From the inside, it feels like running on a treadmill that someone keeps quietly turning up the speed on. You're not bad with money. You're not irresponsible. You're not missing some obvious thing that everyone else figured out. You're just operating inside a system that quietly changed the rules while you were busy trying to keep up. And nobody stopped to explain what actually changed. That's what we're going to talk about today. I want you to imagine a couple. Let's call them Marcus and Jess. Both 34. They live outside Charlotte, North Carolina. Decent area, good school district, exactly the kind of neighborhood you work toward. Marcus is in project management. Jess is in healthcare administration. Together, they pull in right around $152,000 a year before taxes, which sounds, on paper, like they should be fine. They have a 3-bedroom house, a mortgage payment sitting around $2,400 a month, 2 car payments, nothing extravagant, just reliable vehicles that can handle the commute and the school run. They have a 6-year-old. Daycare is behind them, but aftercare, activities, summer camps, that's its own line item now. They have a dog, a Netflix account, a grocery bill that somehow keeps climbing even when they're trying to be careful. On a Tuesday evening, Marcus gets home at 6:47. Jess gets home at 7:10. Their daughter has already eaten something, whatever the aftercare program gave her or whatever was quick. They are both exhausted in that specific, quiet way that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't felt it. Not dramatic exhaustion, just hollowed out, like they've given everything to the day and arrive home with the remainders. They don't fight about money exactly. It's more like there's this low-grade tension that lives in the background of everything. An unspoken agreement not to look too closely at the numbers because looking closely is too stressful on top of everything else. They have about $9,000 in savings. They feel like they should have more. They feel vaguely guilty, but they don't know what they are doing wrong. Last March, their vac unit died. The repair bill was $3,800, and for 3 weeks afterward, they were both quietly panicking. Running mental math at 11 p.m., 2 people making over $150,000 a year, losing sleep over a vac bill. This is not a story about failure. This is a story about a trap. And the trap is so well designed, so embedded in the architecture of modern middle-class life, that most people never even see it. So let's actually look at where the money goes. Because this is a part that most financial content skips over. The part where 2 strong incomes somehow add up to very little breathing room. Marcus and Jess gross $152,000. After federal and state taxes, Social Security, Medicare, they are taking home somewhere around $108,000 to $112,000 depending on the year. Right away, roughly $40,000 evaporates before they make a single decision. That's just the entry cost of earning well in America. Now the mortgage, $2,400 a month. That's $28,800 a year. And remember, they needed both incomes to qualify for that house. The bank looked at their combined income and approved them accordingly. The house is tied to both of them working. That's important. We'll come back to it. 2 car payments and insurance. Let's say $1,100 a month combined. That's another $13,200 gone. Aftercare and summer programs for their daughter, easily $800 to $1,000 a month. Call it $10,000 a year. Groceries, utilities, internet, phones, subscriptions. $3,000 a month minimum, probably more. That's $36,000 a year, just keeping the household running at a basic level. And we haven't touched health insurance premiums, 401k contributions. The student loan payment just is still carrying car maintenance, home maintenance, clothing, the occasional dinner out because they genuinely need to decompress, Any of it. Do the math quietly in your head. It gets tight fast. And here's what nobody talks about directly. A significant chunk of whatever Jess earns is essentially subsidizing the ability to keep working. The aftercare, the convenience meals on the nights nobody has energy to cook, the extra car and its costs. The second income funds the infrastructure required to have the second income. It's not that she shouldn't work. It's just that the net gain on the second income is dramatically smaller than the gross number suggests. This isn't anyone's fault. It's just a structure that very few people map out honestly. Now here's where it gets genuinely unsettling. Because there's a layer underneath all of this that's become more relevant in just the last 2 or 3 years. The economy is not stable in the way it was. And I'm not saying that to be dramatic or to scare anyone. I'm saying it because ignoring it is its own kind of financial risk. Tech layoffs, corporate restructuring, AI quietly absorbing tasks that mid-level managers and analysts and administrators used to do. The job market that felt dependable 3 years ago feels different now. More volatile, more unpredictable. And the couples who feel this most acutely are exactly the ones like Marcus and Jess, dual-income household with fixed costs that were built on the assumption that both incomes would always be there. Think about what happens if Marcus loses his job. Not forever, just for 4 months while he finds something new. 4 months is not a long time in a job search, especially in project management where hiring cycles are slow. But 4 months without his income, roughly $6,000 a month after tax, against a fixed monthly expense structure that was built around $9,000 a month in take-home pay, they'd be through their savings in 6 weeks. Maybe 8 if they cut everything aggressively. And then what? Credit cards, borrowed money, decisions made from panic rather than strategy. This is the part that should land hard. They didn't build a life with slack in it. They built a payment machine. Every dollar accounted for. Every month fully loaded. Which means the whole structure depends on nothing going wrong. And life, as a general rule, is not cooperative with that requirement. Their grandparents weren't wealthy. But their grandfather worked at the plant and their grandmother stayed home. And they had 1 car and a modest house and they paid it off in 15 years and they had margin. Room to absorb a bad year. Room to breathe. Nobody would look at that life and call it luxurious. But it had something that Marcus and Jess's life, with twice the income and twice the careers and twice the stress, doesn't really have. Flexibility. In 1973, the median American family could buy a median price home on roughly 1 income. 1. The math worked. Housing, though not cheap, was proportional. Healthcare was expensive, but not the catastrophic financial event it can be today. College was accessible without decades of debt. Childcare was handled within family or community networks. The single owner could carry the weight. That's not nostalgia. That's just the math of a different era. Today, the median home price in most desirable American metro areas requires 2 incomes to qualify for the mortgage. Healthcare tied to employment means both jobs need to stay not just for the money but for the coverage. Childcare costs in major cities rival college tuition. The entire infrastructure of middle-class life has been repriced upward in a way that quietly made 2 incomes mandatory, not aspirational, mandatory, just to reach the same standard that 1 income used to provide. And here's the quiet devastation of that shift. When 1 income was enough to hold the floor, the second income was pure growth. It was investment money. It was a margin builder. Now the second income is just a floor. Both incomes are required just to stay level. And staying level is not the same as getting ahead. So what's actually happening here? Because I want to name it clearly, without turning this into a lecture. The problem is not your income. That might be the most important thing I say in this entire video. The problem is not that you don't earn enough. The problem is that you've built a fixed cost structure that has no room in it. No slack. No flexibility. You've optimized your life for a version of the future where everything keeps working exactly as planned. And a life with no margin is a fragile life, regardless of the income attached to it. Fragility is not about how much money you make. It's about how much room you have between what comes in and what absolutely has to go out. And for most dual-income couples right now, that room is almost non-existent. That's a real source of the stress. Not the amount of money, the lack of cushion around it. So what do you actually do about this? Because I don't want to just describe the problem and leave you sitting in it. There's a concept I think every dual-income couple should seriously consider. I call it building a 1-income foundation. The idea is straightforward, but it requires honesty and some real restructuring of priorities. What would your life look like if you had to survive on just one of your incomes? Not thrive, survive. Could you cover your mortgage, your utilities, your food, your insurance, your minimum debt payments on one salary alone? If the answer is no, and for most couples it is, that's your first piece of information. Your fixed costs are sized to require both of you, which means you have no individual safety net. The goal, over time, is to restructure so that one income handles the essentials. The other income becomes a builder. It goes to the emergency fund first, not investment accounts, not renovations, an actual cash cushion. 6 months of expenses minimum. And yes, I know that's a lot. But the peace that comes from having that buffer is not something you can calculate on a spreadsheet. It changes how you feel at work. It changes how you negotiate. It changes the quality of your Tuesday evening when you both get home exhausted, because the low-grade financial anxiety in the background, it quiets down. After the emergency fund, the second income goes into building wealth, not managing expenses, actually building. Index funds, retirement accounts, maybe eventually investment property if that fits your situation. But the key shift is treating the second income as optional money rather than required money. That one mental shift changes the entire architecture of how you make decisions. This doesn't happen overnight. It might take 2 years of intentional, sometimes uncomfortable choices. It might mean staying in the house you have longer than you planned. It might mean the car upgrade waits. But what you're buying with those choices is not deprivation. You're buying back flexibility. You're buying room to breathe. You're buying the ability to absorb a bad year without it becoming a financial crisis. That's worth more than the upgrade. It really is. I want to leave you with something that I hope actually stays with you. Security is not a number. We've been sold this idea that if you just earn enough, if you just hit the right income, the anxiety goes away. The stress lifts. You finally feel okay. But Marcus and Jess are making $152,000 a year and lying awake thinking about an HVAC bill. The number wasn't the answer. The answer is margin. Space. The distance between what you need and what you have. And right now, for millions of dual-income couples across this country, that distance is almost nothing. You are not failing. You are not bad with money. You are navigating a system that was quietly redesigned to require everything you have just to stay in place. Recognizing that is not depressing. It's actually the beginning of making different choices. Deliberate ones. Choices that slowly buy back the one thing that money is actually supposed to provide. Not things. Not status. Not the appearance of success. Room. To breathe. To take a risk. To absorb a bad month without it becoming a catastrophe. To actually be present on a Tuesday evening with the people you're working this hard for. So here's a question worth sitting with tonight. If one of your incomes disappeared tomorrow, not hypothetically, actually tomorrow, what would happen? And whatever answer comes up, that answer is your real financial situation. Not the combined gross. Not the neighborhood. Not the cars in the driveway. That's where the work starts. If this changed how you see your situation even a little, subscribe. There's more of this kind of honest, clear conversation coming. No fluff. No generic advice. Just real thinking about the financial life most people are actually living.